My name is Lynn Marie Perron, and my pronouns are she, her, and elle. Well, my title is Founder and Executive Director. My role is I'm a community and workplace traumatologist, and I think my role is in leadership, in visioning, and supporting the staff that I have. I was born and raised in Quebec. I was born in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and raised in Quebec. My heritage is French, Francophone Canadian. And I think the impact for me has been my parents were always very cognizant of the fact that we live in a country where French and English were the two official languages. So despite growing up with French as my first language, I also was put into English school very early on. And I've always been really grateful for that because I think it's allowed me to have, a deeper appreciation for the diversity our country has, as well as be able to speak both languages. And it also, I think, fostered an appreciation for other cultures that I came across as I traveled across the country. Well, Imagine started with it was a single contract with the government to support all of the home visitation programs that were in Region 6. So there was 11 of them at the time, and it was supposed to be a one-year contract. And my role was to provide leadership, organizational support, as well as provide some consistent training amongst all the programs. That quickly in the subsequent years evolved to grow from 11 programs to 92, to include all of the early childhood as well as the family support programs in the region. And while our mandate at the beginning was really sort of focusing on early childhood and parent support workers, in the last few years we've really evolved from being a regional program to or organization to a provincial one. And our mandate has really focused on sort of supporting competency building within the workforce across sectors. So social workers, education professionals, as well as health professionals. But one of the things that's really grown, I think, in the last few years has been the expansion and the inclusion of different sectors that we didn't traditionally work with early on. And that was working with first responders, justice, businesses, as well as municipalities and government professionals to sort of help shore up some of the competencies within those workforces. My staff are amazing. That's the first word that comes to mind. We're incredibly blessed to have a staff that is diverse, that is multi-talented in so many different facets. But I think the thing that makes us stand apart is really the culture and the relationship that we've been able to build. And that was done intentionally. It didn't just happen. I think it's a lot of sort of strategic intentionality behind connecting with each other on a daily basis and sharing not only just our work sort of life, but also our personal lives with each other, which has helped foster some really deep connections and a sense of family. And I know sometimes you're not supposed to use family and work, but I would suggest that this is a very functional family. Well, that's a pretty easy one. I think, during the pandemic, a lot of organizations got into the training sphere. And one of the things that's really sets us apart is that we built a bridge between the head and the heart. We know that professionals are the tool of their trade. Working in relationship-based practice, which means you're working with other human beings, we need to make sure that as the tool of your trade, we work with you. It's not just about downloading knowledge. It's really about sort of building the inner person so that they have the capacity and sort of the ability to manage the complexities of their work. One of the things that I think makes us stand apart is we invite people to sit in the discomfort. It's all right to download some knowledge and to build skill, but the reality is if we build up the person and invite them to really recognize who they are in the world, and sit with the good, the bad, and the ugly of that, because there's some of that for all of us, then it really sort of promotes that shift that we're looking for. So we invite people to be a little uncomfortable with us and to put a mirror in front of themselves and sort of take the knowledge that we're bringing to the table and integrate it into who they are and what they do. I think I'll start with mental health because I see those as two very separate questions. One, I think our approach to mental health is a little too heavy on the sort of downstream end of mental health, sort of how do we address some of the issues once they're there? How do we shore up people living with houselessness, helping them navigate the system once they have a mental health issue? We know that in the last few years, there's been a huge increase in mental health challenges for probably across the country, I would suggest. And one of the things that is troubling for me is that we're not going upstream enough. We know that oftentimes mental health challenges start in early childhood. And so if we keep going downstream and putting band-aid solutions in place, that still doesn't change the trajectory and the number of individuals that are headed in that direction. So we do need to go upstream and help shore up some of the challenges that families are experiencing in terms of accessing some supports, sort of creating equal opportunities for kids. We know that opportunities for recreation and connection is incredibly helpful, and so there's a lot of families struggling out there to be able to provide that for kids. Even just putting kids in sports, for instance, can be financially challenging for families. So I feel like if some of those barriers were taken away, then children not only get to sort of participate in those activities, but they're also getting connections at the same time, which we know is really powerful in terms of supporting mental health, both for the child and the family, because children that are regulated are so much easier to parent. And parents are really struggling right now. They've got a lot on their plate. So that's, in terms of mental health, I would like to see the city move more upstream and provide supports and services and opportunities for families that are struggling. In terms of mental health in the workplace, I do feel like there needs to be a recognition that the pandemic has sort of changed how we work. We can no longer accept or believe that we're going back to pre-pandemic work dynamics where everybody's in the office and working a full day. So I think for mental health in the workplace, we need to acknowledge that flexibility is going to be paramount in supporting staff, and that there's a lot of phantom rules that we operate under. We think we can't change the way we work because someone said so a long time ago, but I'd like to think that at Imagine we've proven that that's not true, that we can provide a very flexible workspace and work time, and that when we do that, people show up. And it's also meeting staff where they're at. We oftentimes put sort of things in place with the clients that we work with. There needs to be a parallel process with our own staff. So if we provide sort of flexibility, fluidity, and meeting people where they're at in terms of the clients we work with, we should do the same in our own backyard, and support staff where they're at. That's a really good question. I'd like to see us sort of, one, be a little more sustainable. As a not-for-profit, it's always difficult navigating funding challenges all of the time. I think it takes a lot of resources that could be placed elsewhere in terms of the work that we do. So I would like to create more financial sustainability for our organization. And I'd like to see us continue to expand in the way we have. We've managed to work all four corners of the province, which has been a huge opportunity for us and our staff in terms of learning, and I'd like to see us continue to grow that way, and to continue working with a variety of sectors. We started off working with traditional allies, health, education, social services, but it's nice to see us expand into working with first responders and justice and businesses and municipalities, and to know that through that process we're creating sort of a healthier workforce. One of the things that comes to mind is our participation in the Advancing Organizational Resilience project with ECVO and PolicyWise. I think that will give us the opportunity to reflect on the strengths that we have as an organization, but to also sort of help buffer some of the areas that need a little bit of work. It also allows us the opportunity to look at our culture and appreciate some of the things that we've grown and build on that. You always build on what you have, not on deficits. And I think the expansion of our staff has really brought different opportunities for us in terms of being able to market ourselves. That's always been one of the areas that we've paid the least attention to, just because we're small, and we're always sort of doing frontline stuff. So the opportunity to put ourselves out in the world and push our brand out, I think, is kind of exciting, because it allows us to develop and internalize a little bit of the identity that we've flourished under.